Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today I'm doing another interview. My guest today is a radio presenter, and today they're going to come on and tell us more about themselves and more about their career.
Hello, I'm Dean McCullough and I'm a TV and radio presenter, currently living in Manchester. I host the breakfast show on Gadio every morning, and just this Christmas I appeared on BBC Radio 1.
Thank you so much for coming, Dean. So today I have 10 questions based on your radio and presenting career, and my first question for you is, when did you first get into the radio industry?
I've been working in the radio industry now for 3 years. I knocked on the door of Gadio in 2019. Yeah, 2019. And basically forced them to give me a job. I said, I've just moved to Manchester, I love radio, and I think that you need me on your schedule. And so I barged my way in and volunteered and did loads of cover shifts and covered every single show on the schedule. And then 6 months later they gave me my own show, which at the time was Gadio Drive. So I was hosting the afternoon show from 4 o'clock with another presenter called Emma, and we did that for 2 years. And then last March, when the pandemic happened, they threw us on to the breakfast show, and I've been there ever since.
Yeah, fantastic. It sounds like it's been a great experience for you so far. Do you have any advice to people who want to get into the radio or presenting industry?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I would say is that you need to be prepared to find your groove. There's so many people out there that, and I was one of them, who just thought the presenters presented, and that's not the case. I learned very quickly that you need to have something to talk about, so an expertise in something, and it has to be something that you're genuinely passionate about, or that you genuinely know quite a bit about, because it just allows you to have a little bit more gravitas and a little bit more sort of authority to talk with conviction. I would say that you don't need an agent. You don't necessarily need an incredible show reel. You just need you in front of a camera talking about things that matter. So in your show reel, don't waffle. Don't just talk about what's coming up and what you've just listened to or whatever. You know, you need to actually get straight into it and talk about whatever it is you're talking about. I mean, I could go on about that all day, but I suppose the main thing is to find your groove and to not imitate anybody else. You know, if you've got an accent, enjoy your accent. If you hear squeaking in the background, that's my puppy Freddie playing with his toy. This is what working from home looks like. Yeah, you need to sort of embrace who you are, embrace everything that makes you unique, because ultimately that is what's going to get you ahead. As well, I believe that you don't necessarily need to be just a TV presenter or just a radio presenter. I do both, and I love doing both. And I think that it's really important for you to be versatile. It's really important for you to not pigeonhole yourself, because people will try and do that. People will try and say, oh, that's Dean, he's Northern Irish, he has expertise in music and theatre, therefore he's a music and theatre presenter. And that's not the case. I can talk about LGBT subjects, I can talk about travelling, there's so many things that I can talk about, and that's why I'm proud to be a presenter who can appeal to loads of different people on a range of topics. So yeah, I mean, it's a really tough one, because presenters land in presenting in various different ways, from comedy, from music, from reality TV, from hard work. There's no hard, fast way to be a presenter, and that's what makes it really beautiful, because you don't need a degree, you don't need any qualifications, you just kind of need to be personable, be honest, and be real.
Yeah, 100%, and I think that advice is fantastic, and I think lots of people will be able to take something from it who want to get into radio and presenting, so thank you for sharing it. What was it like being on Radio 1?
It was the best experience of my whole entire life. I mean, I've travelled the world, I've interviewed so many amazing people, and I've been very, very lucky to do so many things that I love, but I just wasn't prepared for just how magical it was going to be walking into Broadcasting House in London, going into studios where the most incredible broadcasters on the planet have worked, you know. It was really, really special. I think what was so special about it was the reaction from everybody. They, at the time, they don't really have a Northern Irish voice on daytimes. They used to have a music specialist called Phil Taggart, who's from Northern Ireland, who's incredible. But he left just before Christmas, and they've got 2 girls on at the moment from Northern Ireland, but they host specialist shows in the evening. So there's not been a Northern Irish voice on daytime for a long, long time. So when I went on there, they had thousands of messages from people from Northern Ireland just wishing me luck, just saying how good it was to hear a familiar voice on there. And it kind of just affirmed to me that the 10 years of hard work, actually it'll be longer than that now, God, how long have I been presented? Yeah, it'll be about 11 or 12 years now, that it's kind of all paid off. And never give up, really. You know, I think it's important to do that. It was, I'm still kind of shook that it happened. I listen back to my shows and I'm like, oh my God, that's me on Radio 1. You know, it was like a dream come true. And I know that's really cliche, but it really, really was. And I would encourage anybody who wants to get into presenting to reach out to Radio 1. Reach out when they do the search. It'll probably be around October time. When they do that, get your demo together and send it in to them, because they're so supportive. They really want you to do well. They're a brilliant team, and it's a really good foot in the door.
Radio 1 sounds like it was such an incredible experience, and it's great that you got to be part of it. Recently you appeared on the Elaine show. What was that like?
The Elaine show was great. I've been chatting to them for quite some time. They do a thing on a Friday called Man Friday. It's kind of like Irish Loose Women, but they don't have a panel at the moment because in the studio because of the pandemic, so everything's kind of done on Zoom. So originally I was supposed to go to Dublin to do it in the studio, but then everything happened and I had to do it on Zoom. But it's brilliant. I mean, it's my kind of thing, sitting down, cup of tea in the afternoon, a bit like what we're doing now, just chatting. So it's really, really great, and it's on Virgin Media 1, which you can get in Ireland, and the team there are great too. We talked about being sober. We talked about the Northern Irish accent being one of the most sexiest accents in the world, and I was thrilled. And yeah, it was just really, really lovely. I love live TV. It's definitely where I belong, and yeah, it was so much fun. If you haven't watched it, go and watch it back. It's a brilliant episode, and I'm sat on this exact sofa looking just as rough as I do today.
Yeah, it sounds like, again, the Elaine show was something fantastic to do. Have you always wanted to be involved in the radio world?
Yeah, I've wanted to be involved in radio since I was a young boy. Radio is so personal to everybody. Everybody has, you know, a radio show that they remember, a radio presenter that they remember from when they were younger that they've grown up with, and for me that was Radio 1. And I used to have a radio station in my bedroom called Dean FM, and I used to record things on my karaoke machine, and I would I'd play them back and record links over the top of it, and then I'd sell the tapes for 20p to my friends and family. So I've always wanted to do it, but then I got into musical theatre when I was 7, and that kind of got me into the creative world, and that's kind of where my love really, really began for the creative world. And then I did the breakfast show on Wandsworth Radio in London when I lived in London. I did that for a year, and then I went travelling for a year, and then when I came back, that's when I started at Gadio. So it's always been there. Radio's always been there for me and for so many people. And my dream is to work more for Radio 1 and eventually be there permanently. So it just shows you that those dreams that you have when you're really wee, they can become a reality, and whenever they become a reality, that's the exact time in which it's supposed to happen. So yeah, it's really exciting. It's a brilliant industry to be in, and it's changing. It used to be like a white straight male world, and we're starting to see that shifting a little bit now, which is really brilliant because we need representation across all media platforms.
Yeah, 100%, and it's great that you've always wanted to do it, because I think if you've always wanted to do it, you have a goal to like get into something, and then if you keep pushing, you'll definitely get there. For the past few years, you've been hosting Gadio breakfast. What is that like?
It's amazing. it's the best job in the world, but it's also really, really hard work. People think that radio is just you turn up, you talk, and you go home, and it's not that. The talking is a very, 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 very small part of it. I produce my show as well. Because of the pandemic, I lost all my team. We couldn't have anybody in the studio, so everybody has been working from home. So it's been really, really hard work, and it's been quite emotional at times, because you're reflecting the news, you're reflecting things that are going on in the world, and it's not all about music and fun and A-list celebrities. You know, we're covering things like the Black Lives Matter movement, what's happening to our trans brothers and sisters in the LGBT community, and that can be really, really tricky sometimes. But I've learned so much about myself. I've loads about myself. I've learned about interviews, how to interview properly, how to know when to shut up as well and just play a song. And I have just fallen in love again with life because of radio. It's just reminded me how important it is to connect with people, and I do that every day on that show. And I think being a gay man and being on the world's biggest LGBT radio station, it's kind of like the biggest accolade that you can get, because I'm not doing it for me. I don't go into my show every day and just talk about myself. It's all about the listener. It's about them. It's about forming connections, and it's about them telling their stories and them having their safe space so that they can be themselves and be involved with conversations that matter to them, that they don't get anywhere else. There's no LGBT channels out there, and there's now a lot more LGBT radio stations, and because Gadio's been around for so long, it's the biggest, and it's brilliant. And I'm lucky to be part of that team. So it's a great station. If you have never listened, just ask your smart speaker to play Gadio. You can listen to it on FM in Brighton and in Manchester, and you can get it on DAB in London and loads of places across the country and the world. If you're watching this in different countries across the world, you can get it online at gadio.co.uk. My show's on from 7 o'clock every day. Come and join me.
Amazing. Yeah, it just sounds like it sounds like a lovely environment as well being there, and it just overall sounds like a great experience. Do you look up to anyone in the radio world?
Yeah, I do. I look up to Greg James, who hosts The Breakfast Show on Radio 1. I think he's an amazing broadcaster. I look up to Graham Norton, who has his own talk show and started off as a comedian and now is one of our most prolific and infamous presenters. I love Davina McCall because she has a really, really interesting story. She wrote to MTV 43 times before they got back to her and offered her a chance to do some presenting for them. She also had a quite an interesting upbringing and battled with addictions quite a lot. So she broke away from that and freed herself from that addiction, and channels all of that experience and all of that learning and all of that suffering into her job. And I just think that's so inspiring for anybody out there who thinks that they've hit rock bottom and they're battling with addictions or alcohol problems or a mental health problem, that it doesn't matter. You can get through it, and you can kind of do what you are always meant to do, and that's for her being a broadcaster. So I look up to those three. I also look up to Clara Amfo as well. So Clara Amfo hosts the daytime show from 10 o'clock on Radio 1, and this Christmas I got to cover her. And last year when the Black Lives Matter movement happened, she, being a black woman herself, had to take the Monday off after George Floyd was murdered, and she didn't come into work on the Monday because she couldn't, and she was very vulnerable, and she told her story brilliantly on the radio, and it just proved to me that you can be vulnerable and you can be honest on the radio, and it's okay not to have a good day, and it's okay to be honest and say, look, this is just all getting a bit much for me. So she really, really inspires me. I take inspiration from loads of different broadcasters, but in the radio world it has to be Clara Amfo, Greg James, and I do love Graham Norton as well.
Yeah, those people sound like some great people to look up to, and yeah, they all sound so good. What's been the best moment in your career so far? Radio 1 this Christmas. Yeah, that was a fantastic one, because I know we touched on it a bit earlier. In December 2020, you presented the Move It Christmas special. What was it like?
It was great. I've worked with Move It for 10 years. They gave me my first ever presenting job back in 2010. 2010? Yeah, 2010. Was it 2010? Yeah, it was 2010. So 10 years ago, 11 years ago now, and I've worked with them for 10 years, and I'm the longest serving member of staff at Move It. They contract me every year to host the live event, which happens at the XL in London, but it had to go online this year, so that was brilliant. I really loved it. It was great to see the team kind of have to bring everything online and see how they coped with that. It was great, and I got to produce that show as well, so it was nice to help them make the show happen and write the script and find the guests and do all of that sort of stuff. So it's great. That's kind of how I like to work now. I don't just like to turn up and, you know, say a few words and leave. I really like to be involved with the whole process, and see the birth of it. Kind of like what RuPaul does with RuPaul's Drag Race. He's the exec producer and the presenter, and that's kind of what I want to do in the future, and have all of his money.
Yeah, that sounds really great, and I think it is kind of cool when you're on the show but you also kind of do the behind the scenes, because it feels like obviously you've put in so much effort to it and you've kind of created most of it, so just when you hear it or see it, it must just seem like so special.
Yeah, it does. It's really, really rewarding. It makes it easier as well when you're in the studio, because you know what's coming next. You might have wrote the script and you have already planned the guests, so you know what's happening. It's just nice. That's the control freak in me that wants to be across everything.
Yeah, that's great, obviously, that you can write everything and everything too. So I have one more question for you, and it is, do you have any stories from your career?
I mean, a story that drums to mind. It's not about Radio 1, it's about Gadio. Gadio sent me and another presenter to America to make programmes on holiday destinations that listeners could potentially go to. So they'd send us, we would experience the hotels, we'd experience the nightclubs, we'd experience the restaurants, and then we'd talk about it on the radio. But this is when I used to drink. I actually gave up drinking in September, so I've not drank now for 6 months. And when I drank, I used to drink quite a bit when I'm on these trips, because the drink is free and it's hot and you just tend to do that. So what you do is you record all of the experiences and all of the content, and then you go back and record all the little bits in between. They're called continuity links, and it just helps you tell the full story of what's going on. But in this particular hotel in Los Angeles that we were in, they did a thing called they had a 2-hour happy hour every day where you got free wine and cheese, and me and my co-host really helped ourselves with all of that free wine and cheese, and we sat on the balcony of the hotel with our producers recording all the continuity links, but we were drinking wine and eating cheese at the same time, and we were there for about an hour recording all of these links for the whole programme. And by the end of it, we were so drunk, but my co-host was particularly drunk. And bear in mind, we are sat in Los Angeles and we had been recording all around California. She did a link and she said, "Welcome back to Gadio in Las Vegas," and was convinced in her drunken state that we were in Las Vegas, but we had been absolutely nowhere near Las Vegas. And it was so funny, and it was so brilliant that they kept it in, and it went out on the radio and everyone could hear just how drunk we were. So don't drink, kids, when you go on these press trips, and if you are going to drink, just maybe don't drink as much as we did that day.
That sounds like a funny story, obviously getting mixed up with where they were, and yeah, thank you so much for sharing that story. It just sounds like it must be so cool, like travelling for work.
It's brilliant. They pay for everything. It's amazing. I've been to Chicago, Las Vegas, San Diego, loads of California. I've been to Ibiza, I've been to Paris, I've been to Milan, and it's so amazing, and I'm so grateful for it. I cannot tell you how grateful I am. It's really, really, really special. So work hard, kids, put the work in, prepare to do at least 3 or 4 years of freebies, just getting all of those free gigs in. Everything that you'll do probably would be for free for a good while, and just soak up all that experience, because eventually later on down the line you will be sent to incredible countries, and you'll work with amazing people, and those freebies will be no more. You'll be getting paid to talk, and when you get that first paycheck for talking, it's really special.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, thank you for sharing some more advice. It's really great. So we have came to the end of the interview now, and it's been great finding out more about yourself and your career. So thank you so much for coming, Dean.
No problem. Thank you.
You're most welcome. And also thank you to everybody who watched this video. I hope you enjoyed the interview, and I'll see you next week for another one. Bye, guys.